You may notice I'm not in my normal office setup. That's because we're traveling for work right now. We have a shoot coming up tomorrow, and I'm actually in Roanoke, Virginia. But that means I've got some time to make a vlog talking about the right way to do something. And you will read countless books. You can watch YouTube video after YouTube video. You can go to seminars. You can listen to mentors and people who are really educated or people who are not that educated, your friends, your family. You can have all these different sources of input telling you how to do something. And here's how you do it the right way. And I think that's very valuable to have all of that knowledge. But the thing is, when you learn all these different, all the things that you need to do it right, whatever that is, a lot of those can be barriers and hurdles that then limit you from actually achieving the thing you want to do. So let's say you want to start a YouTube channel. There's tons of people out there who will tell you, here's how you start a YouTube channel. This is what you need to do. You need to do X, Y, and Z, your titles, your thumbnails, your descriptions, your upload frequency, the types of videos you make, the duration of the videos. There are so many rules to follow that it can become very restrictive. And guess what? The more restrictions you put on yourself, the more challenging it's going to be. And ultimately, that's going to set you up most likely for failure. And that's why a lot of people, when they try something new or they do a lot of research on how to do something, they don't actually do and accomplish what they wanted to do in the first place. Now, this isn't for everybody. Certainly there are people who can follow a rule book and execute it to perfection, but I feel like that comes with a lot of time. You have to have a lot of time on your hands to do something the right way. You have to have a lot of money and you have to have a lot of resources. So let's take the YouTube channel thing, for example, but this applies to anything. If you want to build a website, you want to start a company, you want to invent a product, I don't know what it is that you want to do, but pretty much anything you want to do, there is some how-to booklet out there, a series of YouTube videos, some web seminar that you can sign up for that's going to tell you how to do that thing the right way. And you can certainly invest in all that, know what's out there, but don't feel like you have to follow all of those things, because if you do, what's going to happen in the case of like a YouTube channel, let's say, you're going to be investing potentially thousands of hours into something before you see any kind of return. And most people don't have that time to do it that way. If you cut back on the time, that means you probably have to increase the money or the resources that are going into it. Maybe you have to hire a team of people to help you achieve that goal. Maybe you've got to put a lot of money into buying the right gear that they say you need, or you need to pay employees to do whatever it is that you're trying to do. And if you can do all that on your own and you can invest a bunch of time, resources, money into it, absolutely go nuts, do it the right way, because that's going to give you the best opportunity for success. But it's not like a success or no success. Success is a growing scale. You know, if your benchmark is, again, in the YouTube channel example, if your benchmark is 1,000 subscribers, if that's success, well then 0 is certainly failure, but what's everything in between? If you have 500, does that mean that you weren't a success? No, I think that just means that you were maybe half as successful as you wanted to be, but that doesn't mean that it's a complete failure either. If your goal is 10,000 subscribers or 1 million views or whatever the goal is that you're trying to get to, there's a spectrum that gets you there. And if you have so many restrictions on yourself in terms of the right way to do it, you'll find that it's very hard to even move the needle at all, because you're trying to do all these things, trying to do it this way at like the 100% success rate. And when you're doing that, starting off at 0, it's very difficult to get things moving. So I really recommend with anything, whether it's weight loss, exercise, YouTube channel, if that's what you want to do, Instagram, like do whatever is reasonable for you to do. If you look at anyone who's famous or successful, a big YouTuber, whatever it is, if you look at their first content, what they started off doing, they weren't doing it the right way. They just started doing it. They went out there, they had, usually they want to do it for fun, or they just have some, they're bored, they want to do it, and they do it, and they start off really rough, very unpolished, not doing it the right way, but they get that little bit moderate success, they start growing, things get better, and then eventually they start doing it the right way when they have the 1 million subscribers or the 1 million followers on Instagram, or their business is doing $1 million in revenue. That's when you can start to optimize and start feeding the system the right inputs rather than the wrong inputs, which is maybe what you were doing. But at least you were feeding the system something to begin with, because if you set out, again, with all that knowledge, it's great, it's fantastic to know those things, but if you feel like you're restricted and bound to that, you're never going to move. You're going to have paralysis. You know, you're analyzing all these things, and that leads to that analysis paralysis where you are so worried about getting it right and having it being perfect and polished and everything is exactly the way it should be, that you invest so much time in doing like one little thing that the next little thing you have to do feels like another huge challenge and another huge burden. And I am convinced that this is the reason so many people don't actually do whatever it is they want to do, because they feel like they have to compete with the super successful, the right way to do it, when you really don't. You just have to look at those people. Where did they start? How did they start? Was it a short film? Was it a music video? What was the quality of it? What camera did they use? Look at where people started and use that as your benchmark for competition. And if it means, oh, well, you know, instead of making a YouTube video every day, I just have to make one once a month, then do that. Whatever's reasonable to you that you can actually fit and make a pattern in your life. Because if you can't make it a pattern and it doesn't reasonably fit in your current workload and burden, it's never going to become a long-term pattern thing, because again, it's that time, money, and resources. If you don't have those things to invest into it, to do it the right way, you're going to fail. And no one likes to fail, and that's the thing. If you feel like you're not doing it the right way, so then you're failing, you feel like a failure, you quit and you don't ever try again. And that's the problem. We are so consumed with learning how to optimize and do things as best as possible. Start small. Figure out what is the smallest version of the right way to do it, and do that. Record a video on your phone. Start an Instagram page where you talk about cooking recipes and do one a month. Whatever it is, start small, because you can always build up from there. It's very, very challenging to go all out from the beginning. You know, that's the kind of stuff that you see from companies that are investing in things, right? They invest a lot of money up front, and maybe that investment is something they can risk losing. So they make an investment, and if it pans out, great, they're really successful. And if it doesn't, oh well, it was a risk, it was an investment, it's okay if they lose. But a lot of individuals, they can't afford to do that. You can't afford to maybe quit your job to do your passion of what you want to do. And you know, there's a lot of people who will say, I quit my job and I got to go to this thing and I'm so much happier and I love what I do. Well, that's great, awesome. But if you can't afford to quit, that doesn't mean you're limited from doing what you want to do. Just do what you want to do in smaller doses. If you want to travel and be like a YouTube travel vlogger or something, you don't have to quit. You could travel on the weekends, or you could go to places locally. You know, I think that's something that a lot of people forget, is that where you live, that's a travel destination for someone else. So you could do something right where you live, or in close proximity, or branch out as you get more subscribers, you get more views, or whatever it is. Grow it from something small. Think of any huge oak tree, any tree in the forest, the biggest one still started off as a small little seed. And you might say like, well, that's not the right way to do it. You've got to make sure that the fertilizer's right. You got to give enough water. You got to give enough sunlight. Yes, all those things are true. But if you don't have all those resources, that time, that money, those assets to pour into it, that doesn't mean you don't water at all. Do a little bit. Start small, grow it from there, and then you can actually ramp up over time. And if you feel like I'm talking about myself here, I am. This is exactly what I decided to do with my YouTube channel. And I am not by any means the biggest YouTuber, the most successful YouTuber, but I'm more successful now than I was when I started. And that should be your benchmark. As long as you keep growing and you stay committed to it and you stick to it, and at those moments where you see like, wow, this is actually working, I can make this better, I can make it better, I can make it better, and you can optimize it and actually aim for that right way to do it. That's why the knowledge is good. It is good to have that as your goal, but never feel like you have to start there, because if you start there, that's almost guaranteed a recipe for failure instead of a recipe for success. And a lot of people will tell you, you need to know all this stuff, you need to read all these books, you need to watch all these videos, and I'm gonna tell you, you don't need to do any of that. It's good if you do, but what you really need to do from the very beginning is just do it.